Welcome to Smart Cities Week 2015. I'm Carol Stimmel and I'm in the studio today with Walker Kimball. Walker is the Senior Vice President of Bechtel. He's also the General Manager of the Americas region. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Carol.
At Smart Cities Week, I understand that Bechtel is introducing somewhat of an infrastructure guide focused on resiliency. Can you tell me a little bit about who that's intended for and what we might learn by using that infrastructure guide?
So I think the infrastructure guide is really aimed at energizing a new way of thinking and sort of an integrated way of doing all of the planning. Now, integration in infrastructure and integration with regard to data, those concepts have been around a long time, but it really is expanding the universe of people who are thinking that way, breaking down the borders between different regulatory departments, different ways of thinking, different silos with regard to infrastructure, and then coming up with a way to maximize the value of all of the capital expenditure that's utilized in the infrastructure world.
Okay, so I know you have decades, 30 years of experience in infrastructure, and I know that a lot of us, when we hear the word resiliency, we think about hardening buildings and that sort of thing, but what I hear you talking about is a lot more. I hear you talking about data, I hear you talking about business, and I hear you talking about integration. Can you say a little bit more about the concept of resiliency that you're trying to introduce to people in smart cities?
So certainly there is a part of resiliency is a hardening of the infrastructure, right? We need to prepare our infrastructure for a number of what may probably be best understood as kind of the natural disaster, the flood, the storms, the earthquake. But also building resilience into your infrastructure is really in designing it in a sustainable way that also increases livability and has an adaptability and a maintainability feature to it that we now think can be improved by the use of data. So the data gathering and intelligence that now goes into the design is built into the infrastructure to help with the maintenance is able to sort of direct you into more efficient ways of redundancy, switches you over onto redundant systems faster, and really enables you to run the city from a control center, and in the sense of resiliency, really to protect it, to protect and grow your asset.
I'm hearing you talk a lot about sensor technology in the city, but commonly we think about going out and installing sensors where we need to collect certain data. A lot of solutions comprise that sort of thing, but you're talking about something a little bit deeper, I believe, which is putting the sensor technology deeper into the infrastructure and thinking about that as you're actually rebuilding or building new infrastructure. Do I have that right?
So, yes, but I think the way to think about these things is really take them back to something that everyone can understand today, which is sort of how your car works. Your car monitors the air pressure. It monitors how close you are to another car. It now interacts with you with voice recognition system. It knows where you're going. It sort of directs you. So all of the systems are now real-time interacting with the driver, instead of the old model where you take your car to the mechanic and the mechanic sort of tells you what's wrong with it. Buildings and the built infrastructure are starting to have the same kind of data analytics built into them. So you will know the amount of traffic that is happening on your escalator, the number of times your elevator is used, when it needs service, the stresses on your building, when the windows need to be cleaned. And it really, all of that data helps you evolve and make the next building even better and even smarter, because you then learn about where additional sensors would be or additional information that you'd like to have.
Okay, so we just really need to change our thinking about infrastructure, buildings, the built environment, which is, it's just not about concrete and windows and building, efficient buildings even, but making sure that that data can be collected really from day one, from the go. That's now part of building a building correctly in a smart city.
Absolutely. The data that we're gathering, the usage patterns, the energy patterns from the existing infrastructure and sensors that we have in fact adapted and attached to that infrastructure are teaching us and guiding us how to make more sustainable, resilient, energy efficient infrastructure for the future that then starts to have a component of being able to interact with the user itself instead of The building maintenance people only know what's going on. You as building occupants are able to have an interaction with the building, much like you are with your car today.
With the infrastructure guide, where we started this conversation, who should be picking this up? And these are really important things to learn, and I also think it can't be understated how important it is to start to integrate all of these systems, our natural systems, the built environment, data analytics, and that's where it sounds like this is really going to provide a lot of helpful insight. Who needs to pick up this guide?
I think certainly all of sort of government leadership, city leadership, your towns, but what the guide helps you do is start to think in an interconnected manner and sort of to change the language from taking one system, let's take the aviation transport system or the rail system, and making sure that those are fundamentally linked together in the most efficient way. Now that's not new technology. A great majority of cities have their rail line interconnected to the aviation system, but that is a fundamental place where you start in thinking about the movement of people as one system. And we now have the ability through big data collection to really understand where the people are coming from and need to go. And from a standpoint of someone like Bechtel, that allows us to maximize the spend on infrastructure and deliver the best value. With that data, we can design a better, more cost-effective infrastructure and deliver it. And in very simple terms, one of our interests in this, not only as a global citizen because we think it helps with resource usage and with people, but this data helps our engineers build smarter infrastructure that adds more value, lasts longer, and that's good business for engineering and construction companies like Bechtel.
Right, it certainly is. So I want to thank Walker Kimball with Bechtel for joining us in the Smart Cities Week 2015 studio. Walker, thanks so much for sharing your insight with us today.
Thank you, Carol.